Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
And the budget will balance itself.
Do I have to sue CNN?
Legacy doesn't mean nothing. I'm gonna die and it's gonna be over.
Welcome and thank you for joining me on her GDS Takes. I'm glad you're here. Let's get rolling. Suchir Balaji, a 26-year-old OpenAI engineer who helped train the ChatGPT program on large data sets, has been found dead in his apartment in San Francisco at the age of 26. He had left the company in August of this year after becoming a whistleblower, saying that he believed OpenAI committed copyright law violations and that its claim of fair use didn't cover all of the data that was being used to train and develop ChatGPT. It's being ruled a suicide, but why would he kill himself? This is awfully weird timing and color me skeptical. Obviously, this guy was very highly skilled and likely very highly paid, all while still in his 20s. I mean, he could go anywhere in the world and say he trained and developed ChatGPT and instantly get his dick sucked. No questions asked. You know, I'd imagine that's how it works for Mark Zuckerberg, the inventor of Facebook. All he's got to do is say to any chick that, hey, I invented Facebook, and boom, instant cock gobble. Not to mention, I don't see any reports out saying Balaji had any history of mental illness or distressed behavior. Let's dive right into the story here in an article by the Canadian Press so we can ascertain the basics. This article is dated December 21, and it says, Suchir Balaji, a former OpenAI engineer and whistleblower who helped train the artificial intelligence systems behind ChatGPT and later said he believed those practices violated copyright law, has died, according to his parents and San Francisco officials. He was 26. Balaji worked at OpenAI for nearly 4 years before quitting in August. He was well regarded by colleagues at the San Francisco company, where a co-founder this week called him one of OpenAI's strongest contributors, who was essential to developing some of its products. We are devastated to learn of this incredibly sad news, and our hearts go out to Suchir's loved ones during this difficult time, said a statement from OpenAI. Balaji was found dead in his San Francisco apartment on November 26 in what police said appeared to be a suicide. No evidence of foul play was found during the initial investigation. The city's chief medical examiner's office confirmed the manner of death to be suicide. That seems like a pretty fast and convenient confirmation to me. Continuing, his parents said they are still seeking answers, describing their son as a happy, smart, and brave young man who loved to hike and recently returned from a trip with friends. Balaji grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area and first arrived at the fledgling AI research lab for a 2018 summer internship while studying computer science at the University of California, Berkeley. He returned a few years later to work at OpenAI, where one of his first projects, called WebGPT, helped pave the way for ChatGPT. Suchir's contributions to this project were essential, and it wouldn't have succeeded without him, said OpenAI co-founder John Schulman in a social media post memorializing Balaji. Schulman, who recruited Balaji to his team, said what made him such an exceptional engineer and scientist was his attention to detail and ability to notice subtle bugs or logical errors. He had a knack for finding simple solutions and writing elegant code that worked, Schulman wrote. He'd think through the details of things carefully and rigorously. Balaji later shifted to organizing the huge datasets of online writings and other media used to train GPT-4, the fourth generation of OpenAI's flagship large language model and a basis for the company's famous chatbot. It was that work that eventually caused Balaji to question the technology he helped build, especially after newspapers, novelists, and others began suing OpenAI and other AI companies for copyright infringement. He first raised his concerns with the New York Times, which reported them in an October profile of Balaji. He later told the AP he would try to testify in the strongest copyright infringement cases and considered a lawsuit brought by the New York Times last year to be the most serious. Times lawyers named him in a November 18 court filing as someone who might have unique and relevant documents supporting allegations of OpenAI's willful copyright infringement. That's a very key point right there. So Balaji was part of an active lawsuit for copyright infringement on behalf of the New York Times against OpenAI. His records were also sought by lawyers in a separate case brought by book authors, including the comedian Sarah Silverman, according to a court filing. It doesn't feel right to be training on people's data and then competing with them in the marketplace, Balaji told the AP in late October. I don't think you should be able to do that. I don't think you're able to do that legally. He told the AP that he gradually grew more disillusioned with OpenAI, especially after the internal turmoil that led to its board of directors to fire and then rehire CEO Sam Altman last year. Balaji said he was broadly concerned about how its commercial products were rolling out, including their propensity for spouting false information known as hallucinations. But of the bag of issues he was concerned about, he said he was focusing on copyright as the one it was possible to actually do something about. He acknowledged acknowledged that it was an unpopular opinion within the AI research community, which is accustomed to pulling data from the internet, but said they will have to change and it's a matter of time. He had not been deposed, and it's unclear to what extent his revelations will be admitted as evidence in any legal cases after his death. He also published a personal blog post with his opinions about the topic. Okay, so Balaji was named in the November 18 court filing. He was found dead on November 26, but he hadn't actually had the chance to appear in court to give his statement or relay any information he's uncovered. So Schulman, who resigned from OpenAI in August, said he and Balaji coincidentally left on the same day and celebrated with fellow colleagues that night with the dinner and drinks at a San Francisco bar. Another of Balaji's mentors, co-founder and chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, had left OpenAI several months earlier, which Balaji saw as another impetus to leave. Schulman said Balaji had told him earlier this year of his plans to leave OpenAI and that Balaji didn't think that better-than-human AI known as artificial general intelligence was right around the corner, like the rest of the company seemed to believe. The younger engineer expressed interest in getting a doctorate and exploring some more off-the-beaten-path ideas about how to build intelligence, Schulman said. Balaji's family said a memorial is being planned for later this month at the India Community Center in Milpitas, California, not far from his hometown of Cupertino. So the guy that recruited Balaji, one of the founders who's been there since the beginning, John Schulman, also left the company, and here is his statement on X. Schulman's X profile is pretty dry, so this guy doesn't like to post much. Balaji's statements aren't the first accusations of copyright infringement against OpenAI. In September of last year, the AP says, a trade group for U.S. authors has sued OpenAI in Manhattan federal court on behalf of prominent writers including John Grisham, Jonathan Franzen, George Saunders, Jodi Picoult, and Game of Thrones novelist George R.R. Martin, accusing the company of unlawfully training its popular artificial intelligence-based chatbot ChatGPT on their work. Other authors involved in the latest lawsuit include the Lincoln Lawyer writer Michael Connolly and lawyer novelists David Baldacci and Scott Sturo. Here's the clip from NBC's Today.
My books have been taken, and I didn't even know about it. I wasn't asked about it. I didn't approve it.
Best-selling author Michael Connolly, whose novels have been made into films like The Lincoln Lawyer and TV series Bosch, says he and thousands of other writers have been ripped off.
I think it's about consent. Our books were just fed into the big maw of AI.
Now Connolly and dozens of other authors are suing OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, for mass copyright infringement. According to the suit, ChatGPT has already been used to create complete unauthorized versions of books by a number of authors, including George R.R. Martin, creator of the novels which Game of Thrones was based on, and who is also part of the lawsuit.
It's just not fair. Why should I take a year to write a 400-page novel if in 15 minutes it can be stolen and redistributed?
Other writers in the suit include John Grisham, author of legal thrillers like The Pelican Brief, and romance superstar Ellen Hildebrand, author of The Perfect Couple. AI systems rely on something called large language models. Those models are, quote, trained using massive amounts of text. OpenAI doesn't publicly say where it gets all of the material it has fed into the system. But according to the suit, at least some of it is copyrighted.
On October 23, Balaji made his final post on X explaining why he turned to the New York Times as a whistleblower against OpenAI. I recently participated in an NYT story about fair use and generative AI and why I'm skeptical fair use would be a plausible defense for a lot of generative AI products. I also wrote a blog post about the nitty-gritty details of fair use and why I believe this. To give some context, I was at OpenAI for nearly 4 years and worked on ChatGPT for the last 1.5 of them. I initially didn't know much about copyright, fair use, etc., but became curious after seeing all the lawsuits filed against Gen AI companies. When I tried to understand the issue better, I eventually came to the conclusion that fair use seems like a pretty implausible defense for a lot of generative AI products, for the basic reason that they can create substitutes that compete with the data they're trained on. I've written up the more detailed reasons for why I believe this in my post. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but I still feel like it's important for even non-lawyers to understand the law, both of the letter of it and also why it's actually there in the first place. That being said, I don't want this to read as a critique of ChatGPT or OpenAI per se, because fair use and generative AI is a much broader issue than any one product or company. I highly encourage ML researchers to learn more about copyright. It's a really important topic. So the real question is, did Balaji commit suicide, which I pointed out earlier is nonsensical, or was he suicidal? headed. It wouldn't be the first time this year someone working a highly important position for a big corporation decided to kill themselves. John Barnett worked for Boeing for more than 30 years and was a quality control manager there. He was in the middle of a whistleblower lawsuit against the company and for some reason decided to go to his car and off himself on March 9. Let me know what you think below, and if you found value in the broadcast, hit like and subscribe. If I find out anything else about this case, I'll be sure to post more about it. I'll catch you next time.